There we go. Hello and welcome to another training session of 4D Roleplay. I'm Sonalar and I got the guest Kade here, who I have challenged publicly on Discord to get in here.
Yes, I felt I had to put my money where my mouth was. So when you said my number was up, I felt that it was only right that I accept your challenge.
Yeah, and it can be difficult to get the scheduling just right, and Rick is also out there trying to get some training sessions going, and I hope that people who watch this, the first 30 seconds, actually offer some of their own time to record some videos, allow the new members to get some training sessions going, so we can verify that they know how to roleplay. just the basics of immersive role playing, the 4D style. Yeah, that's what it's all about. So we already talked about a few rules, so I'm gonna recap them real quick for the audience. We're rolling 2d6. At a 7 or higher, it's a success. At a 10 and higher, it's critical. And if we get some snake eyes going, double ones, then it's a critical fumble. We go with a simple +2 bonus if you're skilled in it, and -2 if you're trash, if you don't know anything about the topic. So most of the times I expect it just to be a normal roll. There will be no attributes, and this is mostly to avoid getting lost in the weeds on the rules mastery of the game and focus on the roleplay aspect of a role-playing game, so we can critique that and improve on that part.
Okay, sounds great.
All right. So we just had a couple sessions before recording. The one was which part you should narrate if you succeed or fail. And I'm very happy to allow you to describe when you succeed. I'm also okay if you describe how you fail. There's a couple ways we do things, and I think they change pretty fluently too. So it's not set in stone in 4D role playing. What I prefer to do is the player shoots a gun, but I roleplay the bullet once it leaves the chamber. That's how I like to visualize how much control I have over the world. I do everything in character until I shoot the gun, and once the bullet is out, man, it's out of my hands,
Okay.
So it might be a success, but how does that success look like? I'll let you describe it at first, like getting dips on it. If you can't think of anything, and try to take over as a game master too. Because sometimes we don't know what things look like, so
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that makes sense, and I thank you for that, because that helps me understand it. It sounds like it's more like my attempt, I guess, to go back to Shauner's book. My character's making an attempt to do something, and that if I go beyond that, then I'm starting to do a bit of a foul.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that, pretty much. For the roleplay itself, do you want to go over some of the rules, or can you tell me, on the spot, what to focus on for the session?
So I think a good way to succinctly break it down is just to say to focus on the character, and so as long as I'm as long as I'm in my character, I'm acting as my character, talking as my character, and I'm doing short turns. Maybe say where I'm at, what I'm doing, and try not to go too long in my turns, so that it's not multiple things that I'm doing. That's the same way if it's just one player. Is that right, Z?
Yeah, I think so. If you have multiple players, there's a bit more of a concern that you don't take the other player's time. because if you add multiple turns in a row, the pressure, people can feel the pressure. Wait, I took one turn, but the other guy's doing 4 things in a row, and the guy next also wants to do 4 things, and the guy after that already gave up, only doing 1 thing at a time, and then we end up in those ridiculous scenarios where everybody keeps one-upping each other just because they don't want to lose. Like, wait, hold on, I also had something I wanted to do here.
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess that brings up another thing too when you said they don't want to lose. So would you say that not optimizing your turns is another important thing? You know, just act as the character would act, not as if you were trying to win the game strategically outside of the persona of your character. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is a core part of trying to immerse yourself in the character. You want to generally drop trying to beat the adventure, beat the encounter, and just figure out how your character would react to that. Now, you know, people play different styles, and that's totally fine. But it doesn't fit too well into 4D roleplay because you break what your character would do with how to survive the moment, because for wanting to beat the game or for having an attachment with the character already that you don't wanna, you know, surrender. Like, I don't want him to die. I played him for 12 sessions. Come on, yeah. I need to figure out something.
Yeah. That okay. So that gives me confidence in that, because that's kind of how I was looking at that. So
beautiful. All right. So, what kind of setting do you want to play in?
Let's see. We could do fantasy is the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Some sort of a fantasy setting, if that works.
Do you I assume you like role played a lot before. I know you're like very interested in role playing, so I'm sure you're quite experienced with like different people and different tables. If that's if my assumptions are correct here. So,
yes. Yeah.
Do you want to do like anything different or weird to explore on top of that, or keep it to the basics and focus on roleplay only?
Yeah, I think probably the roleplay part is the most important part for me, just because it's so different. As far as exploring settings and stuff like that, I've done that, but this is new to me. Just except for the little sort of hedge 4D stuff I've done on my own, I haven't interacted with any proper 4D players or GMs yet. So,
all right, it sounds good to me. We can stick to fantasy. Gonna try to open up I'm opening up the notebook program, and it literally takes 30 seconds to load. I don't understand. I'm very much confused. Why? Well, maybe I don't need notes.
Okay.
I'm scared that the whole computer is gonna crash now. Well, anyways. Why is Notepad crashing on me? I do not... What? Some things are cursed on Windows. Alright. Let's talk about the premise. We got a setting. It's a fantasy setting. There's so much we can do with that. And we can like choose what kind of character you want to play. Are we talking a fighter, a ranger, a thief, a magician?
Yeah, how about essentially a fighter? Okay. Just what's popping into my head right now is maybe he was some kind of a village reeve or a protector of some kind. You know, almost like a local constable. Okay. But there was, and I'm just gonna, if it's okay with you, I'll just fire off whatever comes to my mind. So there was a recent plague of zombies that came through, and it decimated the village. So there are very few of my people left, the people that I used to protect, and somehow now I'm still alive in the remnants of what happened.
Zombie plague ravaged the village. And you're a local fighter, somebody who knows how to fight.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds... I think I can do something with that. And you are still alive. Okay.
Okay.
Trying to think, did we miss anything, or is that... Did we hit all the basics? I think we hit everything.
Okay. The name Jorgen came to me just now.
Perfect.
Is that okay? Okay.
Yep.
So, Jorgen the Reeve.
What is a reeve? Like, that's a term I never heard before.
As I understand it, it would be one of the men in the village who was there to kind of keep the peace, both in the village and on the roads leading into the village. So if there was kind of like local bandits, or there were people in town that were drunk or otherwise, fighting or causing a disturbance, he would come along and basically put it into whatever they were doing. As to what his actual authority was, I don't know that. I don't know if he could put somebody like in the stocks in town, and then people could throw horse manure at their face or something.
All right.
Or if he just had to kill them. I don't know exactly where that terminated.
So Jorgen, he was the local peacekeeper. People turned to him for solutions. And maybe we can flesh out the details as we play, if it was an official title or not. It's gonna come down to how NPCs react to you and how you carry yourself. If anyone's still alive.
Yeah, that's the thing.
All right. Sounds good. Okay, so let's go.
Sounds great.
Gonna set the scene, and you can put yourself wherever you wish. Don't feel obliged to start exactly on what I'm describing.
Okay.
It is... We are talking winter times. It's cold outside. The snow has settled overnight, and the sun is slowly rising. With that, shambling monsters are retreating out of the sun into the shadowy areas of the cliff's edge, throwing a massive shadow over this valley where the village is placed inside of. Massive walls about 200 feet up into the air. The houses stacked closely, neatly against each other in the only area that allows for regular shade. Many houses still burning in embers of untended cooking fires. Bodies reeking of miasma, and some moanings of dead creatures shambling about.
I walk down the road, looking down. I note the corpse of a horse that belonged to old Jed. Its body now torn apart by what happened last night. I wipe some of the gore off of my face and reach down, grab a handful of snow, and just scrub the rest of it off, even though it's cold and it stings my skin.
The horse's body twitches with the hind hoof, unable to get up. Too much of its body eviscerated and strewn about.
I grab my long knife from its sheath and, quickly kneeling down, place it at the base of the horse's skull and then drive it through quickly to try to end the beast's life as fast as possible.
Its eyes already look glassern, and void of intelligence. A small green pulse behind it. Crack of the skull with the dagger.
Damn.
Green ooze pulsates out and evaporates as the body falls limp.
Looking toward the nearest cooking fire that I can see smoldering, I begin walking in that direction. It was just last night that old Jed told me that burning some of them had been the only way to get them to stop. I walk further on until I can get to that cooking fire. When I arrive, I stoke it to try to bring it back to life.
The fire exposed to the elements, some embers lingering besides a lot of the chimney having collapsed on top of it, making suffocating the embers.
I go to the front of another home, looking at the door to see if it is open. I press against it, testing for a lock or barricade.
The door gives in on touch. The latch detaches and it starts falling away from you slowly and then speeding up.
I enter inside, trying to see in the gloom inside this room. Also listening for noise, listening for shuffling, that same shuffling sound.
A loud crack of the door itself hitting the flooring, echoing inside this ramshackled house. The walls are intact. Furnitures are pretty much destroyed or off kilter, fallen over. On the nose itself, a small hicks can be heard. Ah!
Who's there? With my knife out, I walk into the room.
Silence. Some distant dead can be heard shambling, a low, a moaning, reverberating through the village.
The the hair at the nape of my neck starts to stand at that sound. But I make my way over to the hearth, looking for a flint and steel kit, hoping that there is something here that I can use.
A flint can be found. There is a pot over the fire. What was inside, ruined by soot and ash. Some sort of a soup with chunky bits inside. A small whimpering reverberating from beneath the floorboards.
There it is again. I walk over to the place in the floorboards where I heard the whimpering.
The whimpering
I
stops.
try to see through the spaces between the boards.
The ambient light that casts through the window, allowing for a better vision between the floorboard cracks. Something being underneath the size of a big potato sack or person.
I I leave that room looking at the floor for the entrance to a cellar and come around into the kitchen area where I see that there is furniture in one side of the room. I try to move the furniture away to see if there's anything underneath it.
Furniture being pushed away. Make me a stealth roll.
It makes noise. I'm kind of shocked by the my lack of ability to keep this quiet as I move it out of the way.
Inside the furniture, standing plate with beautiful calligraphy written around the border falls off its stand and clatters onto the floor itself, shattering, revealing an iron ring in one of the floorboards that was hidden under the furniture.
I reach down and I pull the iron ring to open the door.
A mix of a
Looking
wooden staircase and shoveled out dirt and stone, leading into a more natural basement.
Heading down the steps, I have my blade out still, and I use my other hand to steady myself as I go through the hatch, looking down. I'm crouched low, trying to see in this gloom.
This basement, barely above 2 feet, 2.5 maybe. Some support pillars helping with the structure of the whole house. Some bags, some crates, some pushed away. One knocked over with fouling potatoes rolled all over the place. The whimper. Uh, the whimper noise behind the sacks.
I head for the sacks. It's been some time since I've eaten, so I I walk up to the sacks to see what's in them, but also to see what's there. And I'm crouched low. It's very low in here. I decide that it's too uncomfortable to stoop, and I get down on my knees and one arm as I make my way over there in the dust.
Two sacks, one of them fallen over with rotting potatoes, the other one tightly bound and upon tightly bound with a cord and secured. Opening it, revealing fresh lettuce.
Grab a handful of the lettuce, put it in my mouth, crunching loudly. Looking around, I can feel the juices from the lettuce on my beard, but I'm still looking through. I'm gonna move the sacks aside. There must be some pet or something left in here.
Shuffling just couple feet behind another crate of feet getting tucked away, but top of the head clearly visible, some hair, long hair.
Who are you? What are you called?
It's a low whimper. It's like, ah!
Do not fear.
Shivering, not replying.
I take some of the lettuce, reach in and grab a handful of the lettuce and kind of hold it out in front of me, and I say, "Do not fear." Again, it is me, Jorgen. You are safe.
It takes about half a minute before the legs extend a bit and tip of fingers belonging to a small hand reaches up around the crate, and a young girl looks over the edge of it, barely 7.
Here,
I,
take some.
big eyes. She reaches out for the lettuce and takes it carefully. Starts peel off one leaf at a time, carefully nibbling on it.
Okay. I look into the child's eyes as she eats. I'm fearful that I'll find that green light.
The lights do not illuminate themselves with the green tinge like the horse. Uh, she shifts her focus after a couple bites to the lettuce and starts devouring it piece by piece
Um,
until
I reached
a good bit of the lettuce is gone.
I reached my hand out to uh, put my hand on her cheek so I can lift her face to see who she is and say, "Do you recognize me, child?"
The face recognizable, uh, with long blonde hair going over her shoulders, known as Samantha. She shakes her head. Uh,
Well,
you're not Pa.
no, I'm not Pa, but I do know you, Samantha. And your Pa would want you to follow me. We must get you someplace safe.
She uh, looks back at the hiding place. Ma said I'm safe here, and I should not move until Ma and Pa is back.
Yes, well, I think they should like you to come with me. They didn't know I was headed here when they told you that. Come, you'll be safe. I start to move back um, and grab another handful of lettuce real quick before I do, quickly putting it in my mouth and chewing as I'm heading towards the entrance to the upper level of the house, back to the hatch.
Samantha doesn't move for a good while until after leaving the hatch. She slowly takes a couple steps, moves to the exit just to look over the edge of what the inside of the house looks like, trying to figure out what's happening here. The noise of shambling mounds can be heard, getting louder.
I grab gently grab Samantha by the wrist with my free hand, and then I'll I turn to her and I say, "You must be quiet no matter what we see. We have to get you out of here.
Her small
So we'll head
hand
for."
wrapped around a couple of your fingers, past the
Okay.
broken shutters of the window. A tall, dead man can be seen. Also, blonde hair. The father of Samantha. The jaw completely gone. A dagger still driven through the cheekbone itself and stuck as it is bonking against the wall of the house, trying to get inside. Ugh.
My stomach sinks at that point, and quickly I head for the door, dropping my knife in the process. I run to the door, the one that fell in, and I will lift it and put it back into place and try to look for something to wedge in between it. A splinter of wood on the floor, perhaps. Reaching down, it's dark, it's hard to see, but I get a hold of something that feels like it will work. Jamming it into the crack between the door and the jamb is an old bone.
Samantha watches you perform, too short to look over the counter of the shutters where the window uh, is partially open. Is somebody here nearby? I can hear knocking.
So I'll turn to her and I'll put my finger to my lips, trying to keep my face neutral, but also giving the child a solid signal to be quiet. And then I'm going to go over to where the window is and see if the shutters are still intact.
Only one, the other unhinged and fallen off the outside of the house on the floor, on the grassy floor.
On the outside. Seeing the
Another foot of
only
the zombie against the wall. Now, one hand on the outline of the window, showing in visual range Samantha as she eeps. Ah!
reaching over, I look to see if there's anything else I can wedge against the door, but I don't have time. So, crossing the room, I head to the kitchen again, and I look for the table. See if I can pick the table up and put it up against that window to block off that view. I'm trying to do so quietly,
The table
but it's
is
heavy.
rectangular, big, sturdy, good craftsmanship, and mostly undamaged from the attacks. It drags across the floor loudly, but movable.
Placing the table over the window, I feel some small sense of assurance, even as ridiculous as it is, because I know what's beyond. Now I look up and I see that this is just a small home from what I can tell, and I feel trapped. But I see the girl is there, and I cross over to her and I say, is there any other way out of your house than this front?
She nods. We we have a backside garden attached to the house. The door uh, next to the kitchen. She points down.
I go over to the place where I had dropped my long knife, pick that up, and I head towards the back of the house, looking for another exit.
The girl now following you as another arm slams against the table, scaring her a lot. Sprinting up next to you and grabbing your hand.
I take her hand and lead her towards the area
What
in
was
the
that?
back of the house. Pay no mind. There are dark things about, but we will make it.
She very much
And
looks confused and scared. The door itself, having still locked by a simple mechanism on the inside that can be pulled open without trouble.
Feeling desperation, I open the lock and crack the door to see if I can see anything outside of it.
The garden itself, looking lush, uh, mostly vagrances of different flowers to be used for herbs and some basic alchemy. A lot of them now covered in snow. Outside, many, like a handful of dead bodies buried under soot, ashes, snow can be spotted, and the clopping of hooves echoing through the valley, uh, echoing off both cliffs, sounding like a small troop.
I put my long knife back in its sheath and I reach down and I pick up Samantha. I hold her close so that her head can be next to my neck and my shoulder, and I take her out into the garden. The clopping sounds echoing. I try still to ascertain where they came from, and I head in that direction.
A good ways down the village, the shape of its placement, and the lack of any other noise except some moaning, making it hearable clopping of a couple of horses. Far down the road, some figures can be seen on horseback, uh, still in the shade and ambient light as the sun has not risen over the ridge of the cliffside.
Still carrying the small child, I start heading towards the riders. My my feet tromping through the snow. I'm I'm moving quickly now. As tired as I am,
The
I cannot
riders
stop.
turned sideways, uh, revealing the profile of a strong horse clad in armor, the person on top of it, clad in robes. He holding up a stave and sinks it down to something on the floor. A green light emits from it, and runes appear in the air, dissolving themselves as whatever was on the floor starts getting up on both feet.
I
And
stop
then
in
the
horror.
man raises his hand, gives a signal, and the shambling mountain starts walking out of the village.
I I face them so that the child does not. But now this has horrified me. I had hoped to walk up to these men and proclaim all that had happened, but now I see that perhaps they had something to do with this. I take Samantha and first walking backwards, I then realize that's not going to work. And I turn and I start jogging away from the village.
The horses, uh, the group of a handful of men on their horsebacks split up, and one of them starts angling down your street, crossing the corner, audible by the hoof clattering.
I look for a doorway, an opening that we can go through. Once I see one, I head for it as fast as I can.
The local inn, the door itself broken open. Uh, the second story of the building collapsed inward, but the first level intact for the most part, giving shadow and silence. Make a roll of stealth.
Despite the snow, I'm able to find enough solid ground and fallen boards that I can walk on without making noise as I make my way to the first level of the tavern.
The tavern
I enter
itself,
inside.
uh, this inn itself, many of the tables have been thrown over. Weapons can be found next to the bodies that have used them. A brawl, a fight, the outlook of a couple tables used to barricade the very drinks at the far back. Whoever that used this place to defend themselves, any sign of their life long gone.
I desperately look for a bottle. As I walk in, I'm carrying the girl, but she's not my main concern right now. What I want is that bottle.
Massive barrels lining the backside wall to illustrate the richness of the inn, broken open and ale spilled all across the floor, soaking the floorboards. Bottles found on the inside of the cupboards. Multiple of them still whole, others empty on the floor. A good 4 or 5 of them.
I put Samantha down, my arm aching from carrying her. I reached for one of the bottles and I take the cork out with a pop. And I tilt back the bottle and drink as deeply as I can.
Red Ambrian wine, 5 years old.
Taking several long swigs, I then offer some to the child.
She looks at you and looks at the bottle.
It's
That
okay. Go ahead.
Dad's gonna be so upset with me. She takes a bottle and starts taking some swigs, and then pulls a big
Okay.
face like, "That's
And then
disgusting."
I take the bottle back away from her, and now I'm looking around. Come on, we have to we have to keep moving.
Now the shade of the mounted man can be seen through the room on the other side, getting into view.
I put her behind me, place the bottle down. What are you doing here?
The man gets off the horse and moves through the door. The little girl is now clambering onto your upper leg. Inside, it can be seen his face is fallen in. The cheekbones are shallow and sunken, and he looks at you, approaching in silence. He slowly grabs the scabbard of his blade.
Okay, I reach down and grab my blade as well, the bottle in my other hand. So I cross draw my messer and I have my wine bottle in my offhand, and I go quickly. I cross the room towards him, and as I reach him, I'm going to try to stab him with my blade.
Make an attack.
I aim for the midsection, and my point strikes.
Pulling out his own blade, attempting to block the attack, a strike, opening up a lot of the black cloaks, revealing some brigandine underneath it, quality armament, a trickle of blood, and a trickle of green liquids oozing out before it evaporates as its face deforms and becomes a grin. And it starts talking in the necrotic tongues of the south, saying a couple sentences as it goes for an overhead swing to dig into your shoulder. Roll a defense, if you wish.
Yes. I'm unable to defend. My horror is so great.
Strike. Uh, Blood, some of your armor, taking the brunt of it, unlatching one of the leather buckles, holding the pauldron in place.
I shrink back and attempt to swing the bottle at his head.
Make a roll.
The bottle strikes, smashing against his sunken-in face.
Thrown off and falling onto one knee. His blade on the floor, he pulls it up to stick the top of the blade into the floorboards and slowly get up. The girl looks at you. What?
I run
What are
for
we gonna
her.
do? A moment of respite.
Seeing that I have some time, I run for the girl.
She reaches
Snatch
out
her
for
up
you.
with one arm. Snatch her up with one arm and try to make for a door or window someplace in the opposite direction of the front door. Trying to get through the remains that are in here and make my way around the wreckage of the room with the small child in tow, almost pulling her by the arm.
A hip height, swingable door behind the counters leading into the kitchen, which lead even further back on past the butcher's table, and beyond that, leading outside as the first bit of sunlight glances into your face, melting the snow from the rooftops and the flowers.
God's help us. God's help us.
The
We're
stepping
getting.
of a man shortly behind you, trying to catch up.
I try to pull furniture behind me. If the blocky table used by the meat cutter, I upend it in the way as I make through. Topple a box if I can with my other hand. I lose my blade in my furor to try to get these boxes and table in the way. It's all that matters to me. This and trying to get the child out.
A hand sticking past a table with into vision, trying to get past it. He grasps for it but cannot move. Then the hand pulls back and hacking noises, splintering of wood.
Heading as soon as the hacking begins, I am making my way out of this room, looking for the exit, the back exit of the kitchen.
The bright light of the sunlight illuminates an exit door to throw away, anything into the narrow streets between the buildings.
Grabbing up Samantha, I run around to the front of the inn, make my way down the side alley and back to the front of the where the front of the building is. I peek around the side to see if the horse is still there.
The horse is visible and in view. The lack of mate very pronounced and rot deep in the air, turned away from you with its butt end, a
Damn.
skeletal structure clad in armor, oozing a black liquid slowly dripping off each leg.
Going the other direction now, seeing that the only thing there was the corpse of a horse, now evilly animated by some strange mystical powers. I turn and head for where the temple in the town is.
Heading up north, down the between the narrow buildings, the temple itself visible, up very much many dead corpses strewn around in a spherical radius around the temple itself, a good 100 feet radius. No body passing that. A couple bodies on the inside, bleeding, puddles of blood on the floor, sword stab wounds, daggers, spears. It was a skirmish.
Making my way inside, I look for the altar
A visible of
and
a strong woman holding up a symbol of balance and with the and two weights on both platforms. And the other hand, a sword raised over her head.
I make my way there with Samantha, and I kneel down at the altar. Save us, goddess. Save us.
Make a religion roll.
I don't know that much about the ways of the priests, but recalling some of the words that I had heard, especially from the more kindly clergy who had sometimes passed me on the road, I get the I'm able to say the words as they said them.
Uh, a sensation of warmth, blood, away from your heart, across your whole body, making your shoulders relax supernaturally. A wisp moans of shambling creatures far outside can still be heard, but now a bit more muffled, as the neighing of a horse breaks through the small background collage
Stay
outs-
here, Samantha.
outside the temple.
Stay here, Samantha. Stay close to the statue of the goddess. I
She
walk. Go ahead.
she climbs up the couple steps of the statue itself and hides behind uh, the stone skirt that clads the bottom half of the goddess.
I make my way back to the entrance of the temple and look outside to face the riders. that I heard. Amongst the dead on the ground, I find uh, what was once a long spear, but now it's been broken. So it's only a short stabbing spear with a jagged end on the back. I pick it up and I find another man who has a dented target shield. I grab that in the other hand.
The neighing can be
And
heard
I start.
again, not from the street. Down on the side of the temple, a hitching post with an overtop roof. Yet again, neighing, now sounding frustrated, trying to uh, this the strunging of rope of an animal trying to free itself.
I head in that direction, towards the sound of the animal.
A white horse uh, with black spots on its legs and corpus, healthy, alive, trying to free itself, stuck.
I I run over and I take the point of the spear and the edge and I work to get the rope free for the animal. And once I cut it, I hold it and then I offer my hand to the horse so that it can, and I do so slowly so that it can make its acquaintance to me.
Make a roll.
As I was taught, I calm the beast by not moving quickly and by letting it catch my scent before then leading it.
The animal relaxes, now freed from its from the posts. A, a couple of steps, trying to buck away but restrained by the rope. It gets allows itself to calm down and
Ooh,
follows the pull.
shh. I lead the horse over to the entrance quickly. Samantha, Samantha, come quickly. Come, my child.
The blonde hair tucks over the statue from behind the statue, and she starts running towards you, wearing her uh, coverall, running and reaching the door. Takes her
Once
a bit through the long distance of the temple.
once she gets to me, I'm going to place her up on the horse, and then I'm going to mount the horse myself.
She reaches up her hand.
I put her up there, and then climbing up myself, uh,
The
taking
animal
a
is saddled and equipped for riding.
excellent. So I put my foot in the stirrup and hoist myself up into the saddle, and I grab the reins of the horse, and then I have the horse walk at first, and then
Visible, turning the horse, a man with its gambeson sliced through the center, standing there, slowly dripping blood at the edge of the circle, staring at you with his long blade. His own horse slowly approaching his location and yelling out. The trampling of footsteps of his companions can be heard in the distance approaching.
the far end of the cliffs, the canyon in which the village is built. I look to it, hoping that there's something beyond there that will allow us to escape. I kick the horse into a run, into a lope.
A
Through the snow.
a secure place to build a village in, difficult to attack if one doesn't know the ways in and out, unknown to the foreigners. The man with the blade tries to cut into your path of escape, approaching swiftly, running faster than a man should.
I drop the shield off my one arm in order to focus on the other side, stabbing with the spear, letting it fall so that I can maintain control of the animal while I attack this shibboleth that's coming after us.
Make your strike.
I'm not used to fighting on horseback, though. My aim is poor.
Waving past the spear strike, he goes for one swing across your back and towards the horse. Blood rushing across your back, the horse spooked and shaking, but now charging even harder down the road, bleeding heavily. The man losing distance on you as the road winds past the villagers, getting out of view and riding out of this apocalypse. The man disappearing on the horizon, turning back to finish their business in town.
I keep a hold of her as long as I can. Continue to ride the horse, trying to get out of the veil.
And with that, we're gonna end the session.
All right. Thank you. That was great.
Oh boy, zombie apocalypse fantasy. My favorite.
It actually got to the point where I was so nervous about all of the threats. I started to get kind of vapor locked a little bit. Like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
there's so much going on here that's dangerous.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey man, look. Yeah, you told me. All right, we got fucking swarmed by zombies. So what happened? I know what happened. Some necromancers showed up and went like, "Oh boy, more corpses. Let's expand the army." That's what happened.
It was time to recruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it was difficult for me at times. Just the general nervousness of not being used to it was right. Sometimes that was a little hard not to be so stiff, and then catching the cues for the dice rolls too. Like you were giving me the cues for it, but the answers was the part I was kind of hanging up on, because I wanted to indicate that I succeeded without describing the effect of it.
I'm totally for that part. I'm totally fine if the player says success or failure.
Oh, okay, so you can say that.
Yeah. Or what some people do, I mean, like Crispy and Phil, what they like to do is like shake their head or nod. And depending on the internet quality, the whole setup, if people are actually watching you instead of having the virtual tabletop open or having the nose in the rulebook, they can react to that. So if you get more comfortable with the players, you can try to like break away from just saying success or failure and lean into the social cues when you get to know each other better.
Okay.
But that takes time, and you have to know each other for that one.
Yeah, no. Yes, but I was I kind of had a mistaken idea there that I was not supposed to say success or failure.
You're not allowed to. It's out of character. Therefore, you will be banished to Askbarn.
So I was really trying to avoid that and say, this is what I think happened. I loved the
I did very much
descriptions.
like the answers that you gave when you rolled success or failure. So it felt
thank you.
totally appropriate. A couple times I had answers in my head. Specifically, you rolled your religion check. Now, I'm not saying you're rolling to know how to make a prayer, but rather if you can be pious enough that your prayer from the heart are being answered by the goddess, because you're gonna know if you're a bad guy or a good guy. You know, I don't know that, but I make you make the case.
Yeah.
And she answered. And for me it was clear. She's gonna give you a horse. She's gonna let you know there's one still out there alive.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I really liked the way that went down. And so at that point, something I was kind of struggling with is I'm so used to thinking, I think, in terms of story.
Yeah.
That it's hard to
really?
kind of sometimes, yes, to bite down that. So in that moment, like I'm looking at what's happening. I was into it. Like I was very into it, but I was also like, okay, you know, I think right here he would sacrifice himself to save the girl.
Right.
You know, and it was just that natural idea of like, okay, what's next? I think it's from spending too much time in the GM chair of always having to have that thing that's going to happen.
Oh, is that and do you mean as a game master, this would be cool, so let's lean into that? Or do you mean as like, oh, I'm the game master, I have to entertain the others, so let's try to make the most entertaining choice instead of the most natural choice?
I think honestly both of those things. I think that is what I had trained myself to do, was that stuff. And it's, you know, the fatigue of that, you know, I'm obviously very tired of that, but it's a habit that I have to go, okay, what would be the, you know, what should I do here? So there, I think, just looking back at it, I failed to be in my character, and I was too meta in that moment, because I did initially think of it from my character's perspective, because I was like, okay, Jorgen wants to save this girl, like whatever it takes to save this girl, even if he has to die, you know, to sacrifice himself. He wants to save the girl. I want to save the girl, but it's just that thing of like, what's looking at the elements of what was happening. I think I got caught in the, I'm just gonna say fiction. It's not obviously, but I was caught up in that, you know, and I was like, okay, well, what's gonna happen next? So,
and who doesn't love to save a little girl in a zombie apocalypse? Am I right? Like, what can be more innocent to save from this tragedy? So a couple points. It also gives your character a direction. I mean, for me, it's just like, what are you gonna do? You're the peacekeeper, and you something I picked up on. You were trying to do something with the little girl, of trying to figure out that she would know you. Oh, I'm Jorgen, and I played this off as she has absolutely no clue who fucking Jorgen is. She knows her ma and her pa and maybe a couple friends from kindergarten, and you're like not even in the picture. So, what answer did you expect? Like, what was your approach to that?
I think I wasn't thinking that was going to work necessarily, but I just couldn't think of anything else to do in that moment.
Yeah, like say hello,
so
greetings,
I felt like
find out.
Like
what are my dialogue options? Like, you know.
This is my name. You know, like maybe, you know, that would calm the child down a
it's a scared pet. I must feed it. I got a bit of a like it's not a pet. It's not a pet. Do not try to feed it to gain its trust. Well, it's still a child, so it might be hungry, so I'm gonna lean into it. But
that's where I was going with that, is just that I thought we were both probably hungry just from this ordeal that must have gone on. I was thinking for days on end or something. So and I had pictured, in my mind, I had pictured that my character had been out in this thing for a while, and now was finally able to get back to the town where his responsibility was, and I didn't know if I would run into NPCs that I would end up talking to.
Oh yeah.
So I kind of thought of the angle of sort of the guilt of being the shepherd whose flock had been killed. So I didn't know if there was something that might come up like that, because I was just thinking of what my character was going through. I wasn't trying to project that, but I wanted to think. I kind of thought through it real fast. What am I going through? Like what am I feeling right now about what's going on and what just happened? So
yeah, it's like
then
what is your character feeling? Getting into
Yeah.
the skin of the character and trying to figure out what would he do in this. It's been days. Like in my head, I was like, this happened overnight and everything went to shit, But it could have been 3 days or 4 days. I was totally. Now that you say this, I was totally fine to go that way too. Like on my end, it didn't change how I make things play out. Since it was
Yeah.
undefined, that was okay to change.
Yeah. And I was just trying to go with whatever you defined.
Yeah.
So I think there's little sort of unintentional shapes made by the paintbrush
Okay.
that that where I didn't mean to sort of define something, but it kind of did define it a little bit, at least in the way I was acting. But then
Yeah.
you would say something that would kind of counteract it. I also had a little bit of trouble with moving my character sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Like moving myself.
You had
Because
you
I'm
had
definitely
a couple of moments of once she reaches me, I'm going to pick her. You could just
Yeah.
as she reaches me, I pick her up, put her on the horse, and with that way,
yeah.
instead of being reactive, you become proactive, and that's totally fine because you clearly state what you're doing, and you don't want to wait for the GM to take another turn. Like she runs towards you. She's in the middle of reaching, in the middle of the temple. Now she's about to reach you, and she has reached you. Like you don't need all of that, right? It's a bit clunky, and sometimes it's a
Sure.
bit hard to tell of what's the appropriate amount of time. I actually gave you a description as she runs across the temple through the open space, taking a while. And
Yeah.
with that, I was pretty it wasn't very flowery, but it was trying to help you visualize. Oh, this temple's kind of big on the inside. It's
Yeah.
it's pretty spacious.
Yeah, that and I got that at that point. I noticed, because I think you're right, is when I noticed it when I was doing the I will wait for this and then this will happen kind
Yeah.
of thing. I noticed I saw myself doing that a couple of times, and then I had a little bit of difficulty, like I said, with the dice stuff, just because I think
If you're
I
allowed
did.
to say failure or success, or
Yeah,
what are you?
yeah, that
How
was
am I gonna know what to describe for you? I can understand that. That
right.
takes
Yeah,
as we described, takes a bit of practice and knowing each other and agreeing. Some people that do this, I say success because I want
yeah.
to be when I'm a player. I want there to be no confusion, getting lost in the weeds and oh, we rolled a die, but what does the die mean? I don't want to get lost in all of that. It's
Because can it be awkward sometimes then when that happens, Z? Does it get kind of awkward when that communication doesn't happen,
for me,
efficiently?
I am a bit concerned of violating the actual rules of the game because we roll the dice to figure out what we don't know is gonna happen. To adjudicate. Because I'm in control of my character, the game master is in control of the world. When both things clash, we roll dice to figure out, well, what is the meaningful, something meaningfully, what's the right word? Success or failure actually affects how things play out, and that's when I want die rolls usually. And sometimes it's
Okay.
very, very little things for me. If you pray to the goddess, I'm very much happy to ask for a die here. And it's not about whether or not you're good enough at praying, but whether or not the goddess looks warmly upon you or scorns you for failing everyone in the village, or it's I
Yeah.
can still have
I
it play out of oh, I failed how to pray, That's not the issue, you know. But
I wish I would have thought of that in the moment. I
yeah,
was trying to think of what my character's viewpoint was, and I didn't want to. I remember thinking I don't want to, like, just say I succeed. So and then I was trying to think of, like, well, how would my character know this worked? So I think that
right.
was
I
what I came
remember the
up with. But
prayer that was
yeah,
taught to me.
yeah.
The sick.
But
Yeah.
what you're saying makes way more sense.
I almost feel like I should have said like roll for piety. You know,
Yeah.
be a bit more dramatic, but
then and then for me to realize what piety means, yeah, like in the moment, because I was a little bit, I think I was a little bit like, the effort involved, for just, from my side, not being
yes,
used to it, it's more constant, and it's more involved, and like I was not wanting to make mistakes. So
yeah,
I think I was kind of like, it was making me stiff sometimes, like,
absolutely. And that's what a training session is good for. It's
Mm.
totally fine to have a bit of stage fright, so to say. Like, oh,
Mm.
am I doing this right? I'm not allowed to ask him questions if I am. You just have to
Yeah.
wait until the end of the session. So this it's hard to like let go of that tension. Like
Mm.
for me as a player, I guess it's a bit more of my personality. I try to let go of all of that. Like, who cares? If I cared, I wouldn't put it up on YouTube anymore. You know, I couldn't handle
Yeah.
it.
No, that makes sense, and I hope to get to to that point too, where I'm just
Yeah.
like, I can let it go, and not be so worried about that stuff. Because I think that's why when I was having that discussion with you yesterday, I finally just said, you know what, I think I have trust issues,
Oh yeah.
because
I don't even know why you said like what I said that made you trigger that. Like, wait, do I have trust issues?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was thinking of things that we had talked about before, because
Yeah.
I had brought up other things before, and I remembered what you said before, and then I thought, that's correct. What I'm doing is I am trying to argue my way around something that basically comes down to just let it go, and it's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be controlled. It doesn't need to be perfect. Because I think we were talking about settings at that point. But it was another issue that I had brought up last week or something, and it was kind of the
Ah,
same
okay.
kind of thing of not just having after a lot of time being, like a control freak simulation GM, like having to, like being able to let that go, and just be like, and not let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
That's a great way to phrase it. A lot. So I mean, we have some great minds in the community. I'm not one of them.
No,
Just I,
get out of
I
here.
I like to
I
call
love what you put in there.
yeah, I like to call myself like more of a 4D practitioner. I do it. I don't think about it too much. Or like
Okay.
after I've done it, I think about how can I do it better. You know, I like to like
Mm.
learn by doing it itself, and that gives me the necessary experience to adapt and change and make it a smoother process, so to say. And so if I and I know like Bacon is incredibly well versed in writing and thinking more scientifically about it. How to break this down academically so that it can be replicated for other groups, for other people to be
Yeah.
understood, instead of having to argue semantics of what does 4D mean? It's like it's extra dimensional, but that's not what you're doing, you know. What is even
Yeah.
immersive? Like you're using abstractions of die rolls, isn't that silly? You know, which are all arguments that we've heard many times before that have even come up recently again. Of we're not. I'm not interested in the semantics. I'm here trying to cut to what's the word like cut into the meat.
Cut to the chase,
Yeah, cut to
or
the chase. Yeah, get to the meat
yeah.
already. Like
Yeah.
I'm done with the vegetables, guys. I want the good stuff.
Well, and then, like, what you and Tyler both brought up, the idea that some people aren't even having these arguments in good faith. They're just sort of reflexive like
Yeah.
reflexively defending what they know, and so
Yes.
they're not really even listening. They're just basically looking for something to tee off on, so that they can argue against it. And it's kind of, I mean, would you say it's kind of the status quo is what
There
they're fighting for?
and I think it's a very natural defense mechanism. If you do something
Mm,
for long enough, you don't want somebody to tell you that you're doing the hobby wrong or that you
mm,
are wasting your time. Like for me, wasting your time is such a powerful word. Like there's so much weight behind that that people
yeah.
are not gonna accept that. So I'm trying to lean away from that because I know I'm thinking about wasting my time a lot. So I don't. Let's try not to project my thoughts onto other people, but give it over in a way that allows them to relax a bit. Of like, oh, okay, he's not trying to attack me. He's trying to help me
Yeah.
how to immerse myself better in this game that I'm playing. That's why I like to say, like, okay, let's focus on role playing, this role playing game, instead of saying, are you guys even role playing in this role playing game? You know, like you say the same thing, but one of them nobody wants to hear you from you again,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
one
Or they're
gets
like, I'm
yeah
role playing. I'm a third level fighter.
yeah.
I'm third level fighter. I'm role playing. Like,
I've been role
no.
playing for 40 years, and the best role play moment is when we fought 18 fire giants and killed them all.
Yeah, there was a in one of Max's videos that he was watching one of the mainstream videos, and the guy was talking about the challenge rating or something of
Yeah,
it was
there's
something
17
ridiculous like
times challenge rating of like deadly.
yes,
Yeah,
17 deadly,
yeah.
that's right. And that was so that was so ridiculous. It's I wish people could see how ridiculous that is, but yeah, I think you're right. It's just that, and for some people that's generally all they
Yeah.
want to do, I guess. Like they're fine. It's not a waste of their time to them. But now when I look at somebody taking 6 hours to get through a combat, like a simple,
Yeah.
the one scene, a combat, and then another scene after it, and that it takes 6 hours and nothing gets done. I just don't have the time for that. And nor do I have the patience for it either. So
Right. And like I feel like well, it can go in like two ways. One of them is you're very young, and because you're so young, you're incredibly patient, right? Because you don't know any
yeah,
better. Like nobody ever taught you that well, there's a better way to do this. You know, you have no experience.
yeah,
And the other way around is like you have absolutely no patience when you're young. You just want to cut to the chase already because
one or
like
the other.
every like life's going by so fast. You know, you haven't had lived 30 years yet, so let's speed things up. And
Yeah,
when you
no,
get
that makes
older,
sense to
you
me.
realize, oh wait, yeah, I can take more time. I can like be more thoughtful about how I role play, and I can adapt session by session, and spend some time, like spend half an hour less time making one more combat turn, and take that combat turn to talk about how this session went and reflect on it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like in esports specifically, young competitive sports like electronic sports, people still don't see much value in coaching or like
Mm,
that it's not worth the money or that they should like lean away like oh no we're just a group of friends, we don't need a coach, we just throw things at the wall and it's gonna work out like the top
mm,
competition. And even
yeah.
there people start realizing wait hold on, like casual players, oh I'm like average mech player but I want to get better at this game and I have a job, I can afford hiring a coach every 4 months to talk about my gameplay for 2 hours, play, let him see, and reflect on it, and
Yeah.
improve on that. And that gives like 2 hours for $100, gives you the value of playing 200 hours worth of games.
Yeah. That's yeah, to get that well, to be able to get the outside input and then
Yeah,
also to be able to take it.
yeah. And for
Yeah,
that, you have to be
that's
open to
yeah.
taking input
Yeah.
in the first place. Like trying
Yeah.
to convince people that they should like listen to your advice about role playing. That's the hard part.
Well, you guys did a great job, at least for me, because here I am. And
Fantastic.
I initially didn't think I was going to go all the way into 4D. I was like, maybe 3D,
I don't need all
but
of that.
4D is Yeah, 4D sounds like. But then after a while, I started to go, well, it makes sense because if you can co-create, you can skip some of the the stuff that's just unnecessarily chunky and taking up time. And as
Yeah,
so I don't have to ask you, Zonalar, is there a door in this room? Is there a window in this room?
which you did ask very
Yeah,
specifically. I am looking for what if the window is blocked. I think is what you asked. Like, are the
yeah.
shutters there?
Yeah, I got very nervous about putting things into the world
Right.
right there, and so that's why I was like, I was really
What
struggling,
what made you nervous
to.
about it?
I didn't want to put something in there. So I think one of the things that I get that I kind of goes on in my head is the idea of don't co-create the solution to your problem.
Right.
So then I thought, well, the door is the solution to my problem, so I can't really, I don't think I should co-create the door. Now I could have made the game go faster that way if I would have said, I run for the door in the back of the house. But then I guess what I'm not, I get, and maybe
Oh,
this
I see.
is, would that be a situation where I say I run for the door in the back of the house, but then you might say you get back to the back of the house and there's no door on the back of this house? Would it work like that? Is that how that would go? If you didn't want there to be a door there?
Now I think there's a room for elegance for the game master, because I don't
Okay.
want to veto exactly what he said. But if I had the quicker thought of, oh, he's running for the door at the back of the house, I think, like, yeah, there's a door. It's an inn, so it has like at least two one way to exit for the guy who's cooking, who doesn't want to like take the trash out
Hmm.
past all the people that are enjoying their beverages. So it's like absolutely no problem. But if there was a problem, you run to the door and the door jams, doesn't open. Their body's outside
Mm.
leaning against it, or something like that. Or
Yeah.
or
Okay.
the end of the building has collapsed in, covering the door with brick and mortar, or like stones, trying to keep it fantasy
Yeah.
with rubble.
Yeah. And so I was trying to be. I think right there, I was trying to make sure I didn't overstep.
Right.
And I'm not used to doing the co-creation part as a player either, well, or as a GM, either way. But that's what, when I think back to it just now, that was my hesitance. Was what I really in my head was thinking is Jorgen wants to grab this girl and get out of here, and because it, and I even thought for a moment, is it safer here? Maybe it's safer here. But then I thought, no, he's not rational. Like, he's just thinks he's got to get this girl out of here, right? So,
I
because
like that.
I felt like it was meta because it did appear to be safe to stay there, but I felt like that was too meta. Like, I thought, no, he just wants to get this girl out of here, So then I thought, well, he's going to try to get her out of here, even though that may expose them to more danger.
You talk
So.
about the inn or the house?
The right now I'm talking about the house, and then
Right.
when we got to the inn, I think I was desperate enough that I just said I run for the back door, because the sort of the fear of the situation was, there was fear in the house, but I think there was even more fear by the time we got to the inn.
All right.
At
I
that
got
point, I'm
a couple of points that I want to hit on. One
sure.
of them is at the house itself. I really wanted to pick up on the specific detail of her father is a zombie, and if you don't do anything, she's gonna get into view of the little girl trying to get back
Mm,
inside the house. Now it's up to you to change that situation. Did that come
uh,
across with how I described how the little girl reacts, like out of the angle of the windowsill, too small to look over, and all of that? Oh, not
at
really.
that point, yeah, I was worried that she was going to see her parents and scream or freak out at that point. But I also was kind of thinking at this point, the character, don't I can't stop that from happening here. It's like the blow that can't be stopped. So you just have to
Right.
bear it. So I at that point, but I did notice it. So I wasn't. I wasn't trying to be, like oblivious to it. Because sometimes that
Yeah,
happens. Players will be like,
yeah,
yeah, whatever.
and it's
But
hard to know, like, oh wait, can my character even do something here, or is it too
yeah.
late?
Yeah, I tried to think like how would he think in this moment, with this little girl, and it would be a terrible thing for her to see her parents, and I think that was good. It was good drama because it did heighten the drama of that moment. I was like, oh no, it was an extra. Like I already felt like there was threat, but that was an extra threat.
It's
It's
like,
like okay, on top of this, so
I'm not
when
just
I
gonna
took her
die,
out,
gonna traumatize this girl by seeing her dead father trying to eat her.
yeah.
No!
So when I took her out, I think at that point I might have said something like I make sure that her head can go into
Yeah.
like next to my neck and my shoulder to try to like
So she's
shield
not
her
looking
view.
around, she's not trying to pick up what's going on.
Yeah, and
I
then
like
and
that a
yeah,
lot.
but okay, cool. Yeah, that's but yeah, I did notice that. So it wasn't like something where I was just like, yeah, whatever. It was just like, okay, there's a lot going on here, and I felt the pressure of the moment, which was really fun and exciting. In everything that was going on, even from the point in the beginning with the horse
Yeah.
that already started it. Like I already felt like, oh my gosh, even the horse is like, because I thought the horse was just a dying horse, and
It could
then
have been a dying
I,
horse.
yeah,
And then it
well, it
wasn't.
had the green. Yeah, yeah. Once it had the green energy, I was like, oh no. And then instead of sort of like doing something where I have mastery, right? Like, oh, I put this animal out of its misery. I'm kind of in charge, right? It
Yeah.
went from that to, oh, I am in trouble. Like I have no power here. Let me
True.
just move on.
Oh god, what do
So
I do with a dead horse? Like it's already dead.
yeah, I went from feeling like I was doing something where I was competent to, oh no, I'm in danger. I need to get out of here. So that was really cool because it for me at least it set the tone from the beginning of this situation where I don't have control and I don't have,
Yeah.
there's not really, I'm pretty powerless. So would that be like if we were rolling that on the like the no prep things, would that have been a horror type tone or
Oh,
not really? Or
I mean, they don't have like horror in the tone table, right? The
no?
horror is on
Okay.
the settings table, but I think,
Oh, okay.
it works perfectly to for that of it would work both ways,
Okay.
kind of situation. It's very flexible, uh, and yeah, I like that. I think
I
since
I
we
also
just write those lists ourselves of what would make sense, trying to get a system going so we can roll a bunch of different
stuff.
combinations and get our imagination jogging, so to say.
Okay. Yeah, I just recently saw that happens. So, because of those videos, I guess I hadn't watched a lot of them, but I recently saw that there's a part in the beginning where they roll. Well, the one that they did this last weekend, I think they did that too. So,
I'm not sure if that
but
was me or no. Wait, I think Mr. Max just did one with Crispy and Phil, so
yeah,
they
that
had
was
one
it. It
going.
was
Right. Yeah, they
yeah,
had
and
this
they
right a day after I did mine with Uriah.
oh yep, and I watched that one too. Yeah, that
Oh,
was a good
cool.
one too. So that I think the one you're talking about was the one with you and Uriah was the first time I ever noticed the charts because you guys were actually talking about it, and so I said,
Yeah.
oh okay, this is how they're coming up with like some of the stuff to go in. Not just free form. Although I think some of them have been free form, where it's just like, hey, what are we gonna do? Like for instance, the session where Crispy and Max and Phil decided what to do with the Horizon the first time when they were going to run it. At least what made it onto YouTube, it looks like they're just what do you call it?
Brainstorming.
Brainstorming.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're just like tossing out ideas. So,
That is very
but
much in the venue of session zero, and it depends on how you approach it. Like some game masters say, I want to play this system. I'm really excited about the new system, Daggerheart, or Shadow Dark, or I'm excited
oh
about
yeah,
the new D&D system that came out. So people have to have like a base desire to run a game. and then like either
Mm.
you have to decide to play with a specific with I want to play with him or I want to play with her, or you want to run a very specific game like oh I want to run Curse of Strahd, I want to run a gothic vampire setting, and we have to beat the vampire, or maybe it's just the backdrop and it's about how do we gain power uh, in a town that is run by a vampire, but I'm not one.
Mm.
I'm not one of them. How do I survive here?
Yeah, that's a tough call.
Yeah. And session zero is all about figuring out like, oh, let's try our stars without number, but what do we do there? Like, oh, let's be smugglers. I want a spaceship. I want to be in a spaceship, and the spaceship has to be super cool. It's like, it's like a Rolls
And I
Royce
think
of spaceships. You know, it's kind of old, but it's awesome old.
and I don't know if this happens off screen or not, but there was one situation where, and I don't even remember the specifics of it, but basically somebody told me they wanted to play something, but then Crispy like vetoed it.
Oh yeah,
And so I was like, oh, okay, I'd never seen that happen. And I had seen them go, okay, do we want to do this? And then someone's kind of like, I think I want to do this. And then that's how
yeah.
they, bypassed the thing that they didn't want to do. But I didn't know if maybe there was something that happened before the session where there was hey, this is the type of game I'm going to run, so, and then somebody brings in an idea that's just not going to work for that
Oh yeah.
idea, for that game.
I mean,
Then they could be like,
have you
okay.
ever been at a table you thought, oh, that would be cool to play in, and
Hmm.
you agreed, you signed up, you are reading the rules, you got an idea for the character, then you showed up and there's a twist in the game that the game master failed to mention, and it kind of
Yeah.
ruined the whole premise for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or like, yeah, I definitely have. Or like the drow character that you mentioned,
Yeah.
where it's like it's
Yeah.
a
Oh.
cool idea, but people might say no to it because they think it's something that it's not.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um,
It can also just
yeah.
be like, oh, right, we're playing Fantasy World. Like, can I play it drow? Then okay, yeah, you can do that. It's like, okay, cool. So what is the drow civilization and how can I work this into my character, like why I'm on the
Mm,
surface with all the other players because they didn't want to play drow or Swiftneblen, deep gnomes or Duergar, or they didn't want to play evil characters. So how can I make my character fit? It's like, oh, I'm bringing in all this baggage from my from my background. It's gonna really give me a distinct culture, and make him different from all the other wizards. Like, so he's wearing a gag all the time. Like, it's like, well, yes, and he wears it around his neck when he casts. So it's like, like it's like what? I don't.
but
I didn't sign up for that. I was like epic fantasy, like Conan, not the weird
not
stuff.
the,
I didn't ask for any of
yeah.
the Ed Greenwood fan fiction. Take it out.
Yeah, that's hard too because I mean I got to the point where if I unless I knew the player, I would relegate them to human characters. And so as I got more trust with them, I would allow them to play different
I
things.
don't
But
trust you.
what
You're a human fighter now.
yeah, you're gonna start at vanilla, and then you
Yeah.
can work your way up to a more exciting flavor later on. If you if you prove to me that you can handle it. But I think too that's also there's some things that go along with sort of mainstream gaming that go along with that too, like
Oh yeah.
the idea of like people wanting to win the game, or
Yes.
so they want to use the most exotic character that has the most benefits to win the game. Or there's
Exactly.
the other thing, which is where you get the people that just they you're supposed to get along and do the adventure because that's what everyone's doing.
That's
And
what you
so,
agreed to do at the start of the game. Let's
yeah.
play
And
Tyranny of Dragons. It's like, okay, that sounds cool. Let's go on an adventure. And then you realize, wait, I'm stuck on this adventure for another year because there are 5 chapters in it and they are fake chapters too. And
yeah.
you start bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and you realize, how long am I gonna be stuck here? You look around at the table, and people like one of them is like already skeleton, dead corpse at the table, like he lost the plot long time ago. The other guy's like, well, I better figure out how to be awesome at combat because it's happening every session.
It's the meaning of life
Yeah,
at that point. You're
yeah.
just doing combat.
It's like, oh, this
Oh,
backstory that I
that's
had, let me throw it out the window. That never's gonna come into effect. I'm never gonna like save my own kingdom because it's next door. It's not here where the adventure is happening. So I can just ignore all of that.
yeah, it's not in the GM's
Yeah.
plan, so you can't. And I actually got I was in a like a story gaming phase several years ago, and I think you might have commented on this too, but I wrote down in like I put in Discord,
Yeah.
I had gotten to the point where I could pull off a game with a plot, in 3 acts with no problems. With like
Oh,
I could actually
nice.
get the players to do it in with the right cajoling, and not by railroading them, because I even then I knew that railroading was bad, but by manipulating the story and the situations. But it was such an empty victory when I finally achieved it,
Right.
because I
Yeah.
realized it was boring. It was boring. I pulled it off. It happened exactly the way I wanted it to happen, and it was so empty.
Absolutely. That thing of okay, I know how to get the players to buy in, to get them to agree to it. So I can do this, or every time they make a choice, I can weave it back into this plot line I had going, and then everything plays out how you expected it to, and you wonder why it's not exciting anymore. It's because you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then or things like I saw another strange phenomenon, which I called forecasting, which is kind of like when I noticed that players started doing their own railroading, where they would want something to happen in the game. So they would say they'd come in with a character and they've got a backstory, so they want this thing to happen in the game later in the game, and it was kind of a double bind. It was sort of a no-win situation, because either they got what they want, and then it was just what they expected, and that was boring for everybody,
and
or
you
they didn't get what they want, and then they were unhappy.
and you did that this session. A couple
I,
moments, very like
oh,
they happened a couple times, and I wrote it down real quick. I wrote down in quotation marks. I had hoped to do X, and you would say like,
oh yeah.
I'm look, I'm hoping to find something to eat or something like that, and I would change this as I'm looking for food in the basement.
Mm.
I look for a way to go down. And I really liked it when you went back to the disheveled furniture and tried to figure out, well, there must be something underneath. And I made you roll
Oh.
for the stealth. And I really liked that because, okay, you're being proactive. Something is hiding down there, and there is a way down, and I'm inventing a way to go down of,
Okay.
well, there's
Okay.
all this furniture in the way, let me move those. And I find like perfectly reasonable. Now, if I had it written down somewhere like, well, the basement is on the outside, and for very particular reasons that have already been established, I cannot change this
Hmm.
anymore. Because, mentioned it 10 minutes ago to another player, but you didn't listen to it because you were thinking about, well, how do I do double attacks, notes in the rulebook, and like skipped over. If you then move all
Yeah.
the furniture, it'd be like, and you find some coins on the floor, it's like, there's something else happening, maybe.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So, like, so there was in the Horizon game, there was a part where Max and Phil are riding in a vehicle, and then Max says he turns on the radio and he's listening to music. But
Yeah.
then Phil starts talking to him about something, and they go back and forth, and then Phil's like, I turn on the radio so that we can have some music, right? So I was like, okay, was that because it's assumed that when they were talking they had turned the radio back off, or did Phil just not hear him, and then he was, saying, adding something that was sort of doubled, that it was a duplicate of what was already going on in the
Yeah.
situation.
And that
Yeah, because if
and that can happen because we don't.
yeah.
It's hard to pay attention 100% all the time. This is
Yeah.
why we have players say, like, Bacon and Nicholas, they both say, like, it's exhausting them to 40 role play. It's raining. It's like after 2 hours, I'm like, oh, I'm empty. I need
Yeah,
to
yeah.
relax now because you're so trying to be so focused on what the other players are saying that if you play for longer, it becomes more frequent that you accidentally mishear what the other player says, or
Mm.
don't pick up on the detail of the radio already being turned on. But at the same time, now if that happens and you turn the radio on again, you can realize, oh shoot, I didn't realize that. But it's not a big of a deal because we can also
Yeah.
imagine like, okay, the radio was off while we talked and now it makes sense again.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the
So
more,
it could.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, so you can. It's kind of. It's like you said. It's not a big deal. You can sort of assume what you need to make it work. Is that
yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
And the better you
Okay.
are at expressing those little details, the less often it happens. And also keeping the sessions not too long, like 4 hour 40 roleplay session, going all out all the time, you're gonna realize like, oh, I'm like I'm losing steam over here. Like,
Does it get easier after you've been doing it for a while? Do you get more stamina after you've been doing it for a while? Or is it always just that hard?
I think it very much depends on the person
Okay.
who's doing it and what they have trouble with. Because
Okay.
I I don't even know if I can answer this like with any sort of authority.
Yeah.
I'm more
Asking other
speculating
people.
that myself as somebody who draws a lot. Like, I'm not. I don't even want to call myself an artist. I do draw a lot, so I do art. So I think
Yeah.
a lot about what do I want to draw and how should it look like, and I imagine the character in. Well, if I draw him like that, what does it even mean? Like, how do I express him to be different from the other dwarf or the other elf girl with big boobies? Like, how do I make them
Yeah.
different? How do I make it exciting? How do I make it my own? So it's a lot of
Yeah.
thinking, daydreaming, of imagining. So for me, it's more of a I flex this muscle in other areas. Now I finally get to flex it within roleplay too.
Oh, yeah.
So I
Okay,
don't.
if I could ask something real quick too. I know this is kind of going back here, but
No worries.
for the part where so was I kind of doing that interior dialogue a little too much with Jorgen? You know, the where like the part where he says, well, there was one part where I said something to the effect of, "I'm so horrified I can't do this." Right? Was like that works, right? But the part that it doesn't work for is where it sounds like I'm suggesting to you as the GM, like, "Hey, it would be nice if I had a motorcycle right now." You know,
I would
like that's
do.
the kind of thing you want to avoid.
I would switch it up. My problem was
Okay.
in the moments of I had hoped to do X, like, oh, I'm so
Mm,
horrified. I cannot. I don't think I can do this. Change this to an internal monologue that you're thinking to yourself. I can do this. I can do this. I cannot. Fuck, I need to get out of here. Change it
mm,
to even thinking in character, not I am horrified. I cannot do this. For me, it would be too stiff. Of okay, you're explaining this to the other players at the table, and not expressing your character anymore. So staying inside the
okay.
skin of the character, even if you wish to do internal monologue, and I'm very much happy with having a player express the thinking at the table. But then I would like to hear it from the perspective of the character thinking, not
Okay.
so it's less stiff. Uh, do you see the distinction here?
Yes, I think so. Because if it seems like what it is just trying to project something to everybody else, which I would argue I was, because I was trying to project it to you.
A couple of times, yeah.
Instead of being in the character, there was sometimes where it was genuinely me trying to be the character, you know, but I just didn't do a very good job of it. But then there was also times where I think I was just sort of projecting to the room and
Hmm.
like, okay, this is what. So in that respect, I don't think it was as genuine. Maybe it was kind of more performative.
And
Um,
that is a difficult part of how do I get the game master to hear what my question is, of what I want to do. And for that, I say, acting character. Just tell me what your character does.
hmm
I look, I look around for way out of the room. I don't have to guess, or but I start around for way to escape. It's also a way to express, like, okay, he's not just looking for a way out of the room, but to get away from the danger that's approaching him. So I can give you, like, all right, back door on the back side of the kitchen. There's some light. I was specifically describing daylight shining through the backside of the door. So now it's within your eyesight of where your character's
yeah,
standing. Of like, right, I know where to go into to go outside. Like it's right there. The daylight is here. The light at the end of the tunnel. I can describe
yeah,
the light at the end of the tunnel becomes apparent, and you
yeah. That
can now
makes sense.
decide on what to do about this. Like I was looking for escape. Perfect place to go.
And I wonder if that also worked subconsciously too. I wonder if though the way I was doing it maybe uh, didn't seem like that, but you by putting those things in, I think there was a couple times by putting those things in. Looking back, I feel like I acted on them sort of subconsciously, like like you gave me the information that I needed
Yeah,
to make those moves without forcing me to make those moves, or even suggesting them, you know, um, specifically, or in um,
absolutely.
just yeah.
I'm
So
not trying to tell you what to do. I'm not trying. Well, it's also a training session, so it's a bit easier not to because there's no time to think about ways to railroad you.
yeah,
There's no time for that. Like, what are you gonna do about the riders? I don't know, but like there are riders here, and I really love that. Oh, great! Safety has arrived, and I'm like, oh boy, he gonna find out? And I realized, oh wait, no, you're running real fast with them. You're about to cry out, I need to step in now or it's too late. Situation of like, hey guys, please help me. And they all turn to you as they raise their staff with the green flow, lightning strikes them in
yeah,
your direction. Like, I was thinking that way of, oh, he's taking a few too many turns. He's not looking for to get information because he's acting.
ah,
It's like, okay, I can step in again, give him more detail to allow him to make a different choice if he wishes to. But also,
yeah,
your character could be like, oh, they're resurrecting the dead. Fantastic. It's a cleric. It would have also been amazing. Like, could have been a
I
great comedy beat too. Like, it works so
yeah.
many ways.
I didn't want to I didn't want to go out of tone because I thought about. So I remember thinking, well, I don't know that green magic is always bad. So
Yes.
then I didn't know specifically for this world, is magic bad, right? So I kind of had
Oh
to,
yeah.
like, so I think I took the simplest answer of, okay, he can obviously see this is, so, before, because I think you did the green magic kind of description a little before you did the body getting up.
Yep.
So at first it sounded almost like he was disintegrating them, and so I was like, oh, well, maybe this wizard or whatever is getting rid of them, right? But then to my horror, I discover he's the one making them, and so at that point it's like, oh no, and we got to turn and go the other way, me and the child, to where he's backing up at first. I have him, walking in reverse, even though it's slower, but it's part of the,
Oh, I like
part
that.
of his emotional feeling. And then he turned and then moved away with the girl. But to go back to the thing, I was thinking about what you were saying. Like, so I left the house, heard those footsteps. I heard more than one horse, and I thought, okay, I doubt it's a herd of dead horses. And I thought that's a good diegetic thought, right? So I'm
I
going to
agree.
investigate because maybe it's the king's men or something, right? So I go out to look, and then of course we see that it's not. And So then it was just that thing of going from place to place and not really, the tension is building. This guy is after us, this imposing figure. Then we get to a place where there is a temporary respite from it, but there's no real comfort there. And then
No.
I think at that point, so to go back to the bit about taking too many turns, it, just from the experience of it, I wonder if it's related to, so not kind of being directionless or not knowing what to do. Do you
Right.
think that happens, that people take too many turns when they're kind of just sort of like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to keep talking, basically?
Yeah. I think that is one of them. Uh, Being a bit directionless because the game house is not telling you what to do anymore.
Yeah. And I felt a pressure like to not make you tell me what to do. So it wasn't just the thing of like, oh, the GM needs to tell me what to do. I actually experienced the opposite of like, I don't want to make it so Zonalar has to like constantly talk. And so I was
Okay.
trying to keep that from happening, just because to me it felt wrong. It felt like if I'm
How
like
would
it
you
felt like
how
I
would you
I
even
would be
do that
expecting.
though in the 4D training? How would you even ask me of what you should do, right?
Yeah, I think so that's where I think maybe it's a part of the old habits where you don't want that dead air, like
Right.
nobody wants to, like, so then
Like
it's like it's
what do we
somebody's
do
turn to
next,
talk.
right? But nobody's
Y-
asking. You just look at
Yeah,
each
and
other.
nobody can withstand silence
Yeah.
because, like, especially if you ever watch the sandbox game
No, they
stall,
cannot. I Yeah, definitely.
yeah, that's what happens is that it gets to the point where it stalls and then it's a vacuum and someone will fill that vacuum, and it's usually the GM, because the GM is kind of in that host role or whatever. So I think that's
Yes.
part of why GMs never shut up, is because they're like, oh, okay,
I
they're
need
trying to,
I need to be
keep
the
it
host.
rolling.
I should
Yeah.
entertain my players. And we talked about it recently in the Discord. I said, here's a screenshot of where the Dungeon Master's Guide says you should entertain your players. And I
Mm.
called it out as no, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because if that's your job, you're gonna burn out for being a dancing monkey, voluntary, unpaid internship to the other players at the table that are supposed to be your friends but are now using your services for free. So
Yeah.
where do you
No.
get your joy from if you're here to entertain your players? The tyrannical way of running the game, the constant threat of killing all the player characters, the creating a whole super cool story for the players to run through, like the whole gauntlet that you've prepared, or like the cool battle maps and the music and the DJing. That's where game masters lean towards because they still want to answer that question of like, if I'm here to entertain them, how am I gonna get entertained,
Yeah.
right?
You
No,
become a servant, like you
yeah,
said. Then you start to resent it.
and
And
exactly, and you don't even know why.
yeah.
Why
Yeah.
do I start hating this hobby? I've done it for so long, but honey
I
says it's 4 a.m. It's time for a role playing session. It's like, yes, honey.
Well, and at the risk of sounding like a psychopath, I think at one point, once I started to realize that relationship, it started to turn me mean,
Yeah,
because I started to say, okay, look, if the choice is they impose their will on me or I impose my will on them, I'm going to impose my will on them. And so
I
that
better strike
like definitely
first,
took,
before they punch me in the
yeah,
face.
yeah, so I definitely had a phase like that where I was like, no, it's my way or the highway. You can get the fuck out if you don't like it. There was
Yeah.
definitely I definitely went through a period like that because I got tired of exactly what you were saying. Yeah,
What should
that
I
that
do next,
definitely
Game
happened.
Master? And very specifically, silence. You're so right. It's uncomfortable, and I try to give room for silence. Very specifically, to allow the atmosphere to build
Hmm.
and to for the players to give a moment where they can actually think. If somebody's always talking, you cannot think. But if there's
Hmm.
silence in the room, and you're like, my character wants to get out of here, but not only that, he needs to save that girl. Nothing else matters but that this girl lives. And at first you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh right, I should kill myself to save the girl." And then what? She's gonna be alone in a village full of
Yeah.
zombies and necromancers. So,
Yeah.
but if there's a bit more room, then you're like, "Oh right, I actually need to get her out of here first before I like do the heroic sacrifice of fighting
Yeah, and
off
I think
the last necromancer with my life or something."
and I
Otherwise,
think
yeah,
I think in sorry to interrupt. I just was thinking
go ahead.
that's where I failed because it's exactly what you're talking about right there. Because I'm thinking, what like what's the story? Is the story my character dying and the girl going away? And it was external. I like some of that was internal, but I think it got to there was a couple parts there where I felt myself drifting out of the character and into like the story space because
Right.
I was like, oh, what? How can I help? Zonalar like do something cool here. There was a couple times where that kind of just automatically happened. It wasn't like on purpose, but
I would say I wouldn't call it a failure though, because I would call it a great success because you had those moments and then you try to recheck the whole situation of, wait, hold on, my character's not trying to die. It's like, oh, there are survivors here. Let's go towards them, figure out like if they can help, or they're here to help, and realizing they're not here to help and acting accordingly of how your character would react. Like I run backwards, I protect the eyes of the child so she does not see all these zombies standing up again,
mm,
and also the way you there was a moment I'm trying to think of. Trying to find a solution at the temple, praying for help, and you can decide how help looks like. I mean, if you invented, I don't know, some holy water on the spot, I would have been fine with that because there was a successful role involved. You're in a temple in a fantasy setting whose grounds were consecrated. So you could have,
mm,
because it was a role, I would have been fine with uh, power being invented on the spot by the character. But also, it's hard. Like I can see, like maybe maybe it's not even a thought you have. Like we didn't talk about it.
uh
If
huh.
that's even possible, that too.
Oh, like if it was a game we were going to play, and so we had a little bit more information ahead
Yeah,
of time, like that kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like in some sessions, Crispy said, "All right, like over here, yeah. If you do a critical success, yeah, you can 40 role play like piece of power into the scene that like actually
Okay.
helps you. Like yeah, something gets shot open and the crate busts open and out roll, I don't know, like fucking, what's it called, like legs of dynamite, like sticks of dynamite roll out. Like, oh god,
Oh
it's
yeah,
full of
yeah.
dynamite. Wait, it's full of dynamite. Like
This is great. Yeah.
could come up with cool stuff like that that changes the whole situation, as long
So
as
so
it fits in the world that you're role playing in.
so that's tricky because I think as it stands, and this just might be me because I'm a noob, but the uh, the rule of you cannot 4D the solution to your problem.
Yeah,
It sounds like that's not absolute, maybe. Now there's crass ways to do it. Like I think the example that's given sometimes is like, okay, you come to a door and it's locked, and then you're like, when you say, I reach into my pocket and I grab the key. That's like crass, because you're just basically bypassing something. Um, you're saying like this is not an obstacle. It's a kind of a well actually, right? Like there's a door in your
absolutely.
way and it's locked. Well, actually, I have the key. Right here,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Well, actually, this
But
door
there are
couldn't be locked because you described it as a such and such door, and they don't have locks. It's like some weird like, well, it's actually a boulder that you roll to the side. It's like, well, actually, I
yeah.
like pull up the potted plant and grab the key underneath. What you should do is, I think to myself, look around. My eyes stop at the potted plant, and I like could it be? And I lift the pot up, look underneath, and you give it back to the game master to tell you like, well, if that isn't the key, you know?
Yeah, that's cool. So if we were to do that with that situation in the temple, would a better way for me to do it would have been, well, I think you already described it, to think about the piety, right?
Yeah.
Like for me to, to say, and I forgot how you framed that exactly, but basically it was just a value statement of like, do I know how pious I am? Have I been good to the goddess, or, or the people of the goddess, or what, or just
Make
good in general?
you pray, which is an act you're doing, which is great. The role itself manifests of, do you get aid, right? This is
Yeah,
the right setting, it's the right atmosphere, it's the right moment of, yeah, you better pray and you better hope you get an answer. If there is no
yeah,
chance of failure or success, I wouldn't ask for a role. It'd just be like, oh yeah, this goddess is definitely helping you. I mean, you're doing all the right steps, and everything's no problem. But I had a question of like, are you really religious? Like, do you really believe it? So,
right.
so I need you to
Which was
answer this
cool.
question for me first before I give you something.
Yeah, no, I love that because it kind of also made me. It also makes it have a different tone of, is this gonna is the character good by some measure that has any, like effect on anything.
Yeah.
Yes, he might be a nice guy. That might not mean anything. And so I felt it went along with the tone perfectly to have that happen the way it did. But yeah, so I
Not
just
just
did
that, you,
remember
you
though.
found a little girl, and the first thought was, I need to kill myself to protect her. It's like, it's also very powerful of where the Keku's headspace is at.
That's true.
I'm sorry,
Well,
I'm making a bit fun of it, but I cannot help myself. But I find it incredibly amusing. Like, either way, it's like, oh, that's awesome. It's
okay.
selfless. It's great for a hero. It's like, Samantha needs to
That's
be
cool.
saved. I don't know what happens. She's getting out of here.
Yeah. If nothing else happens, she
Yeah.
needs to be saved. Yeah. Well, yeah. So because I had already established him as a protector type person, so I
Yes.
felt like, okay, I don't. I it did. There was a moment where I thought, well, he could be like some kind of a bastard about this. He throws
Oh
the
yeah.
little girl out the front door and he runs out the back door. Or something like that. But
Right.
it didn't make sense to me. So I thought, no, that's not who this guy is.
Or
He's
even
not like that.
just being more pragmatic, like, oh god, this little girl's gonna make so much noise all the time. And you just leave her there for a moment, sneak out the back to kill her father, with a good strike
Yeah.
before things escalate. And like
I,
with a,
I look to the little girl like Crispy in that one game and I say, "Tell me your story,"
yeah,
where he would have everybody tell their story before he killed them.
wild
The first he
hell,
killed them. Yeah, the wild hell. What's your name, little girl? What's your story? Tell me your story.
stab,
Yeah.
and it's fantastic.
I do remember the single most embarrassing moment of the game, though, that stuck in my head for me
Okay,
was I can't believe I did this, but there was a point where I essentially I attacked the big man, and I think I said I stabbed him, and it was the most like pedestrian way. Like, oh, I was embarrassed that I said that because it was. I mean, I might as well have just said I roll. I attack with my long sword. It was but I was a little confused
I
by how to
cast
say it.
fist.
Yes. Yeah, that was super lame. I stab him.
But it got the message across, and
Yeah.
it's not like we've been fighting for 20 turns, and you turn to I stab him
Yeah.
because it's like you can't just cannot think of anything else anymore. So
Yeah, I would.
so I try to help you to make it a bit more, yeah, cloak grip support is Gamberson underneath. So it's not just a dead guy, or it's like somebody more sophisticated, who at least
Yeah,
thinks
yeah.
about protection.
And that did startle me. Oh, there was another time too where you rolled a dice roll and I saw the dice roll and I reacted. I felt myself react. I was like, like
No,
that,
the
which I
game
was,
master can roll
yeah.
dice. What is this?
It was a really good roll for the bad guy, and I went
And
like
11.
that.
It's like, no.
Yeah. Yeah, and I made a face. I know I made a face like, that's terrible.
When I
Yeah,
struck
that was
you
great
on
though.
horseback. Right, that was the one.
Yeah.
Because there were two
Yeah.
moments, and at the first time I was like, I will let you roll defend, and I don't roll anything. And that's how you're
Yeah.
gonna eat damage. And also, we
Yeah.
never we never agreed, like, what are hit points? Well, you better decide,
Yeah.
because...
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I thought, well, I guess the Zonalar will tell me when I'm dead, or just or unconscious or something. So
Maybe.
that's kind of the way I was thinking you were going to do it. I know in one of the games they talk about strikes, but I have no idea what that means. So
Yeah, we played, when I played in Uriah's game, we used a strike system, and you had as many strikes as you had a body. So I had 60 bodies, so I can take 6 strikes before I'm on the floor, bleeding out.
oh, okay, okay, so it's pretty straightforward
Yeah,
then.
6 hit points, 6 strikes.
Okay, okay, they just don't call it that. Yeah, so
Yeah,
okay, I gotcha. Yeah, but no, I that was fantastic. I had a really good time with it. I was immersed in it. I'm not practiced in it yet, but I still had that immersion. I had that urgency, that sense of urgency of like, the danger that's here, the
yeah,
spookiness, I think there was another thing that was going on there too, which was uncertainty, because even though my character knows the town, like I don't know the town, and so when I said that part about the temple, I was kind of like, I think it would make sense that there would be a temple here, and so that's when I just you know was willing to co-create it if it wasn't there. Um, but other than that, I did feel like to me the player that the town was an unknown, and
yeah.
that added to the sense of dread because it was like I don't know
How
where
do I get
anything
out?
is.
Which way is out?
Yeah,
Which...
I'm
Where are the horsemen even standing on? I don't... You ran into a building, and I was like, okay, let's give him a new building. This is the
yeah.
inn. This was the inn, and there was a fucking skirmish in here. Everybody's dead. Fucking furniture everywhere. There was even a barricade that of like a final stand of some guys that
Yeah.
failed. You know?
I think that it's that thing of like, again with the horror tone, when the people are running but they don't know where they're going,
Yeah.
and so they just keep stumbling from one bad place to another, like that's kind of what it felt like. It was just like, stumbling into one, and not having that sense of mastery of like, I'm going up to the third alley on the left where I will dogleg around this building and then go to, like, let's say there was a map, right?
Yes.
Like the GM gives you a map and you're just like, oh, well, I'm just going to go over here because I can see,
Oh yeah,
this
absolutely.
is, yeah.
How do you imagine? I mean, if we flip the table, you're the game master, I'm the player in this setting, and you handed me a map of what this village looks like between, like, in this cliffside, in this cauldron almost, like,
Yeah.
covered both sides. It's just Dead Man's Alley down here, but you handed me a
Yeah.
map of where everything is. How would I role play this out? And you
I
you
mean,
can probably see it in your old players, like what they would do or what you would do when you see a map.
yeah. Well, and I think what a lot of people will do is they will just stop playing their character and start playing the map. They'll
Exactly.
just immediately, it becomes a top-down strategy game at that point, and they're not feeling who their characters are anymore.
Yes.
I have used maps in the past for places, but it's not very satisfying. I think I've tried to save confusion by doing it, but I think a picture would probably be better than a map. Like if we had a little image of this snow-covered village that's in
Yeah.
ruins, then then that would be evocative, and it would be easy to say, okay, I can kind of see these are all low buildings. I can see the sides of the cliffs on either side, which when you described the geographical setting of that village, I was like, you bastard. Like, I was like, this is terrible. Like, that seemed so cruel. I was like, no way, it's in a cauldron. I even thought to myself, am I understanding this right? And then you repeated the description later on in a different, like in a different situation, and I was like, it is like that.
Yeah, the
Because
sun
I was
isn't
like,
high
that's,
enough to
yeah,
melt anything. It's just
to melt.
ambient lights.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that is really terrible. That we're in this like gorge, and then the zombies have attacked. But
If I
excuse me.
was if I was
Yeah.
smarter, I could have like also put in a river that created this gorge in the first place. Of
Oh,
like,
that would have been cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would be so cool. But I'm not thinking that smart ahead.
It was still cool. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I just thought it was cruel. I thought it was mean.
I'm climbing up the cliffside, crying, both ends, trying
These
with a little
dumb.
girl holding me down, holding me back. Like, no.
Well, yeah, and I like the way you said at the end, where if you know the terrain, though, you know the way out, basically. Which I thought, oh,
Multiple
that's
ways
cool.
out, like little dirt paths, like where the trader will take his donkey up and down, super tiny, super narrow, but he knows that the stones will hold because it's been done for generations.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those little details are amazing.
Also, like a
But
bit
yeah, I
of
know.
information that I'm not telling that your character knows, but villagers would know. And that's also
Yeah.
hard to do as a game master. You don't want to lore
Mm,
dump, but when it
yeah.
becomes appropriate, you can put in something here and something there.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if a character should know something, is that kind of what you're
Not
referring to?
just
Like,
that, you can decide what your character know. Like, okay,
mm,
he's in the village, but is he that kind of guy that paid attention to the little ways in and out of the village?
oh, okay, okay. Like it's like the same thing with you not telling me my character sees something, right?
Yes,
Like you just tell me something's there, and then I decide if I see it, right? Is like
exactly.
because yeah, I mean, there's some things that you couldn't help but see, but like I think the example that usually sticks in my head is that the character comes into some kind of a bar, and the GM describes there's a guy looking at you, right? Well, the player can say, I don't see that guy, I'm looking at the bar, and I go up to the bar. And so that way
Yeah.
it's because a lot of times in the typical games, the GM will try to do the second person thing. You see the guy looking at you, and it's meant to be like it's the player is therefore then supposed to engage with that hook of the guy looking at him. And then it gets really old, and the player loses agency.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
a thing from the last training session of I described this cowboy scene of the player getting in, walking into the bar, sitting down, and everybody looked at him. Then they turned back around, and but I described like you feel presence of some ice boring into your back. But
Mm,
he decides what he's gonna do with that. The character knows in this particular case absolutely the presence that you sense when the back of your neck are like tingling a bit of like
mm.
I'm still being observed,
Yeah, yeah.
undeniably
He
so. But he can
It's a
decide to
sense.
ignore it. Yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah. Or he could say could he misunderstand it too and say, "Oh, I'm expecting my brother Bob to be in this tavern, so I turn around all happy to look for Bob, but it's not really Bob. You, the GM, doesn't know it's Bob."
yeah.
Is
It's
that thing like where I was saying? Is that too much? Like, is that projection of the player, or can you just play to that and just have it be like a fun, like, oh, this is just what my character thinks,
it very much the player can interpret like, oh, if my character senses something, he's paranoid and he thinks, oh, it's an enemy, or he's kind of oblivious, like, oh, did my brother arrive for the drink? Turn around and then it's a guy
Yeah.
with a gun at his face, like, and you play out the scene that way. It's like, oh, it's like as a comedic
Yeah.
beat, but you don't think about what would be funny. You think about what would make sense for my character. And he
Yeah.
senses that, well, somebody's definitely looking at him, and and you like, do you turn around and look? Who is it? Do you like, like you're looking for ghosts, but nobody's there? Do you just
Yeah.
ignore it because it's a bar? Everybody will always look at the new guy who just arrives.
Yeah. That's true. Well, so that's interesting too what you were saying because comedy has to be something that happens. The only time it seems like it would be appropriate for the character to be comedic is if the character knows they're being comedic. Like if I look at another character and I say, your face looks like an asshole. That's my character making a joke, or hopefully making a joke, not just threatening him, right? But I wouldn't do something so that to the camera the scene is a comedy. Like like I wouldn't want to, my character does something stupid that my character wouldn't do, but it makes for a funny beat, like you're saying, right? Like that's
It
that you
has
don't,
to it has
that's
to be in
yeah.
character, but it does not need to be intentional.
Okay.
So your
Yeah.
character acts in character, paranoid. He senses something, like touch the side of his leg, and he scares up, screams, pulls his leg up, turns around, pulls out his knife, and it was a cat. And that
Yeah.
could all just be. It was all serious all the time, but the reveal is what makes it funny of what it is, right?
Funny. Yeah.
And you can play with that because it subverts the expectations of the players at the table. Of like, the game master's gonna try to kill me. It's so horrible out here. It's like it's zombies everywhere. It's like even the horse wants to eat me. It's like, oh, it's a cat. Wait, it's alive. Like, you know, something falls over. What is it? It's like a hedgehog scrolling out and trying to scare you away.
I see. I like another thing that drew me to 4D is that you have players who are willing to have their character be wrong or have their character do things that are incorrect. That another thing that I was really tired of with 2D players is
Yeah,
they never want to lose, they never want to look bad. So
absolutely. Not wanting to lose. It's a big deal. That's why I say it crudely. Like people disagree with me that I change the win condition when I play the game. I don't play to win the game. The win condition is that I get to roleplay. And since I
yeah,
get to roleplay every session is a win. So I'm happy no matter what happens. Do I live? Do I
yeah,
die? Am I the guy who survives to tell the story? Like, I'm not that worried about
yeah.
that because I get to roleplay with role players that care uh, about roleplay. It sounds so reductive when I say it like that.
I don't know what it's like. Well, I don't know what it's like where you live, but here, in my experience, if you go to the local gaming store,
Yeah,
then what you get are, a lot of sort of sweaty tryhards who, they're looking for the near constant ego stroke.
yeah,
They can take a little bit of the dice making them fail. They
yeah,
can take a little bit of that, but only in the as a price for chasing the prize of the big win on
right.
because of the dice. And so that mentality I also grew extremely tired of because it gets really old, especially because they will take an adversarial approach to you as the
Yeah.
GM, and then you just
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like it's like they're leg humping you every time you run the game. It's like they're just constantly trying to win, and it gets so
Give me
old.
the win. Give me the win. I want the
Yeah.
win. Give me the win. Like, guys, come on. What if we tried to have a dinner scene with the Baroness for helping out with the bandits, like and you learn out more about the town and why they're bandits in the first place. And wait, is she actually the good guy? Really? Like, what about these taxes that have been raised like 3 years in a row from like 2% to 20 to like 30% of all the people nearby? Like, is there any?
Yeah, they don't want to do that.
No, I just wish to know where the next bandits are for me to kill. So,
Yeah, and then if they don't feel like they've been represented, they get butthurt, and like if they didn't build if their build or their stats didn't get them what they want, then they get
right.
butthurt, and then it's like it's very childish. But it is I think because 2D play is built so much on trying to win by the rules that is a byproduct you see with 2D play a lot
Yeah.
is people that have that addiction to it, to trying to win.
That, and it's tough because how do you convince them that there's a better way to play
Mm,
without confronting that their way of play could be so much better? Like, okay, oh, there's a better way to play? Wait, hold on. Are you saying that how I play is bad? Or is worse?
yeah.
Now you gave it a value judgment, or at least like a, yeah, like one is good, one is bad, one is better, one is worse. Now
Yeah.
there's value attached to it, and its implications. People get defensive, as I said an hour ago, probably.
Yeah. No, yeah, that was true. Yes, I agree. Yeah, and it was interesting because so I found Crispy first,
Yep,
and Crispy has, he's more diplomatic, but then I watched Shauner after I found Crispy, and at first I was not feeling Shauner. Like I thought, oh, this guy's really angry, like what's up with this guy?
he's
But
really upset.
I yeah, but then I started listening to what he was talking about, and I thought, you know what, he has a really good point. Like, oh, and then there's another really good point. So then after that, I went back to Crispy's video and started watching, and then something I was saying today was the first time I listened to examples of 4D play, I wasn't really sold on it just from hearing the play by itself. Now, of
Yeah,
course, now I am, but and I'm not saying that. I think maybe Tyler thought I was saying that it wasn't entertaining enough, like it's supposed to be. But what I was really saying is that it's deeper. I think it's deeper than what a lot of people can really understand from that other viewpoint. And so that they can get it later on. And I think it's important that it's out there. Like, obviously putting those actual plays out there are going to be the proof of the concept, right? But
that helps. Also,
yeah.
why I enjoy making the videos of. I really enjoy when people get something out of it. Like I draw,
Mm,
not just like I like drawing, but I like it even more when people like my drawing. That's like, oh, that's so.
yeah,
Oh, thank you.
so good.
I feel so good. Like I want let's draw something else and see if
Yeah.
people like that too. It's a bit addictive too, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw some of the frames that you were drawing, and I was like, "Oh, that looks awesome!" Like just the lines of the action, and it was just sketches that you were showing us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like you were trying to get the pose right, and I was like, "That's so cool!" Because you can see the motion of the character, and I always like that when I can see like where the design came from, and you know, even if it didn't go further than that, there's something elegant about that. So, but yeah,
Absolutely.
no, I
So people like to push back on the criticism of this is bogus or you're not supposed to play like that or I've been role playing for 40 years and like we've done this already and it it's like oh we've did this role
oh
play 40 years ago. It's like why did you stop then? Why did you stop?
yeah,
Like what did you replace it with? And you watch how they play and how they talk about the hobby and realize very quickly like they settle for less. They settle
yeah,
for less and they thought it's good enough. And you have to decide for yourself of okay, what is this thing you do with your friends to relax? Like a lot of us have social clubs or hobbies. That's what we do to connect with people. Maybe roleplay is not the thing where you want to challenge your best friends on. Like it's ride or die, but motherfucker. Like the dice, are kind of tertiary in this town. I expect you to stay in the skin of your characters. Like what? You you're crazy. You're an
Yeah,
actor.
good.
You larper. Like, what is this?
That does make a lot of sense now, like when you say it like that, because it does seem like very intense to anybody who just plays 2D things. I think that the idea of not talking, not doing the crosstalk or the incidental talk,
Yeah.
at first it's like, what? How could you possibly do that? And then
How can you
the
even
only people,
communicate?
yeah, and the only people that do that are the LARPers. So
Yeah.
it's the first example that I think comes to mind is because that they do that because they're, dressed up as vampires in a club, and so they're not going to
Or
break character.
or the actor who knows the camera is rolling and you don't want to ruin
Yeah,
the scene. So you make the
yeah,
connection. Oh, he's thinking in scenes, so it doesn't. I need to follow along with what he imagines should be the right line to say. Whereas it's not about the script that I've written for you to read. It's about the situation is happening. Yeah, there might be a camera rolling literally with a video, but also like metaphorically if you play a table without recording. The scene is happening, but it's important what you do in that scene, not what is the coolest way to react to the scene. Because your
mm,
character is only the thing you have complete control over, and not the game master, and not the other players at the table that want you to heal them because they're dead on the floor bleeding out at 2 death saves. You know.
yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, I think I'm going to have to go, Z. I
And
got to
we
go to
kept
work in
going.
the
I don't know
morning.
what, like, yeah, definitely. Uh,
Hey, it was great. I'd keep going for more hours if I could, but I've gotta go to sleep.
Sounds
But
good.
I'm very appreciative. Thank you for running this tonight and for coaching me. I appreciate your time and effort,
All
and
right.
it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. So
Thank you. All right, let's stop the recording first. Goodbye, guys.